9.8, we're solving two-step equations using inverse operations. We're going to think of two-step equations as using the order of operations in reverse. So we need to review the order of operations first. We have parentheses, then exponents, then multiplication and division together. Remember, we don't do multiplication then division. We now know that multiplication and division are inverse operations. They do the opposite of one another. One takes small groups and puts them together as one big equal group, and one takes that big group and breaks it into small equal-sized groups. They're doing the same thing, just in reverse. Likewise, addition and subtraction are inverse operations, so they are lumped together as well. So you do multiplication division from left to right, then addition subtraction from left to right. We use the order of operations to answer question 1. Remember, with equations, there's two questions. What's happening to my variable? Number 2, how do I undo it? Look at negative 2x plus 3 equals 12. Well, if I was doing this problem as order of operations, just the side that has the equation, or sorry, the variable, I'd be multiplying by negative 2, and then I'd be adding 3. I would be taking care of my multiplication or division first, then my addition or subtraction. The next one, I have minus 8, because remember, it's being added of a negative. If I add a negative, I'm really subtracting it. And I have division. So I would take care of my division first. I'd divide by 3 first, and then I would subtract 8. Again, question 1 is very important. If you just jump to trying to solve it, this is how you make mistakes, especially in two-step equations. So list out the operations that are happening. This is the first step in what we call the round-trip method. You start by listing out the operations and the values associated with them in order, just like we did. What is happening to the variable? We do this according to the order of operations. If you do not put them in the right order, you will not solve in the right order, and you will not get the correct solution. Once you've listed those operations and values out, draw an arrow pointing down. That's saying this is what's happening. Write the inverse operation and the value associated with it next to the original operations and values. We just figured out what's happening. We answered what is happening to my variable. Then we're answering question 2, how do I undo it? And we're putting it in the proper order. Next to that, we're going to draw an arrow pointing upward. Okay, so the first question is what's happening? That's the trip there. The trip back, the round trip, is what do I do to undo it? At this point, you just follow your directions. You create a list of what's happening and how do I undo it in the proper order. We do that to end up the solution. So let's try a problem together. We have 3x minus 5 equals 7. From an order of operations point of view, I see multiplication, I see subtraction. So clearly I would do multiplication first. I'd be multiplying by 3. Then I would subtract 5. That's what's happening in that order. I need to do the inverse of each. So I wrote out my operations, I drew my arrow down, because that's what's happening. Opposite or inverse of multiplication is division. That should be divided by 3, sorry guys. And then we have addition of 5. So to undo it, we're just going to follow the directions we've written out. We're going to add 5 to both sides. That cancels. We get 3x equals 12. So we took care of adding 5. Next thing we said we're going to do is divide by 3. If you lay out the directions like this, if you answer the first two questions, what's happening and how do I undo it, you'll know exactly what to do. These arrows tell you which way to go now. That gives me 1. 12 divided by 3 is 4. On your own, try these two problems. Pause the video and come back when you're done. Show all of your work to receive full credit. Welcome back. First thing that's happening to my variable is I'm multiplying by -2. Again, those signs are very important. Then I'm adding 4. The inverse of multiplication of negative 2 is division of negative 2. The inverse of plus 4 is minus 4. The arrow tells you which way to go. I'm going to subtract 4, then divide by negative 2. If you do this step, you will not have to second guess yourself while you're doing the problem. So I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. That cancels. Gives me 4 on the right. Remember, always look for your identity. 4 minus 4 is 0. Then it said to divide by negative 2. Well, if I divide both sides by negative 2, negative 2 divided by negative 2 gives me an identity of 1. So I'll put just x on this side. Divide this side by negative 2. 4 divided by negative 2 gives me negative 2. We're following those directions that you're writing out. Negative 5 plus x over 5. Well, I'm dividing by 5 first. Then I'm subtracting 5. Inverse of subtraction is addition. Inverse of division is multiplication. The arrow tells you which way to go. So I'm going to add my 5 first. To both sides. Now, if you don't get your identity, you need to go back and look. Did you set up your directions correctly? But at least I'm not sitting here guessing each time. Negative 5 plus 5 is 0. That's the identity I want. So I'm left with x over 5, or x divided by 5, plus 7, or equals 7. It says I'm going to multiply by 5 next. I'm left with x equals, oh there it is already, 35. Alright, now we just talked through solving two-step equations. This is what we'll be doing all week. Not the easiest topic, so please ask questions, come in for help, and take your practice time seriously. Thanks for coming by, and I will see you in class.